In today's video, I thought we could look at a small slice from my collection from my favorite mass market publisher, Lo Scarabeo. What I love about Lo Scarabeo's decks is how the artwork is so interesting. The artwork is very high quality, meaning it feels experienced, it feels mature, it feels well done. The decks do a great job in the visual world building and that visual storytelling that I enjoy. And there's just a elevated experience engaging with the artwork that Lo Scarabeo selects, produces, whatever. So let's get right into these decks. I am going to flip through these a little bit and just talk about some things I love. We can just see this small slice. I mean, we have what? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 decks if I counted right. Once again, you know I'm not good at math, so I could be off there. But I thought this would be an interesting exercise and make for a fun video to look at a variety of decks here. So let's jump right into it, shall we? Tarot of the Animal Lords is probably one of my favorite decks from this publisher. Sadly, it is out of print, so I'm sorry to tease, but it's a part of the collection that I have. And this is one of those where I think it's you love it or you hate it. It does do the whole animals as humans thing. But there's something about it that feels really beyond its time. I think this is from the early 2000s. And I was really surprised to find out the year that this was produced because it feels like something that could or would be produced current day. Now, there are some cards that do go a little corny. There's a couple of them, but for the most part, I really enjoy the slightly muted color palette. Obviously, a very heavy nature theme. And then there's this almost like stained, gritty overlay texture across them, which feels of the late 90s, early 2000s. It was one of those unicorn decks that I stumbled upon for a good deal on eBay out of the blue. And I really adore it. Do I use it all the time? No, definitely not. I do have some great pairings that I enjoy with it. If you hear clicking or weird noise in the background, that is my tortoise going absolutely bonkers in my room. It's rather warm today, so he is on a mad dash around the house. You get full illustrated scenes in this deck. There's symbolism if you choose to engage with that. It sticks close to the Rider-Waite-Smith. Here is one of those cards that I find absolutely corny. I don't know if it's because the figure is shirtless. That probably is not helping that at all. That one and the devil, I think, are the two that I just go, oh my gosh, why? But I appreciate it for what it is. I do love the fashion of these sort of folksy characters and creatures. This probably is one of my favorite cards. It's a very dynamic composition with that upshot with the beaver falling down the waterfall. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I don't want to talk about and show every single card for every single deck because we will be here forever. But this one definitely deserves a bit more shine. There's current decks out on the market like this. This one, oh, see. Oh, no. That's the other one. There's definitely other decks like this out on the market. This one just really spoke to me. And there's also an oracle with this artwork as well. But I really was after the tarot. Love to have it. I just love how timeless it feels and that you could say whatever year that this was produced in and you would totally believe it. We might as well just go through all the tuck box decks and then just move through it that way. Why don't we continue with the animal theme? This is Tarot of the Magical Forest. Once again, also a deck that has this gritty texture to it visually. That is definitely something I am attracted to, apparently. I really like in this deck the strong use of colors through the suits. So, if you were to lay out a large spread only using this deck, you could absolutely read into the colors and have an additional layer to your reading only using one deck. So, I love pairs and multi pairings in one spread, but there's also a beauty in keeping things simple. So I like how we can see this clear color and where you can kind of see those highs and lows in a spread, almost reading it through like a story. And those color associations will be up to you. Yellow could be positive, bright, looking out to the future, very warm, nurturing, calming. We've got, the blues, greens. What does that mean to you? That could kind of go either way. A red, a pink, a purple that feels, passionate love. It could also be a warning. I had to kick the tortoise out of my room. I'm back. As I was saying, these color associations will be a bit up to you and the way they're feeling in your spread and your reading. But that's something I really enjoy about this deck's color use. Also, the gritty texture I really love. I'm a sucker for big-eyed creatures and a strong use and grasp of art fundamentals, composition, scale, color, texture, all those things. It does it really well in here. The animal characters are a bit on edge, and I love that. They feel kind of unsafe in a way. Like they're edgy, It's kind of just, there's this vibe, there's this feeling about them. There's this, maybe they're up to no good. I'm like, wow, how did we end up with all these in a row here? It does the Rider-Waite-Smith really well. And once again, it's not one that I am constantly using. I feel like my strong animal decks have a place and a purpose versus other decks that feel more general in their art and in their theme get used a bit more. But I love this one all the same. It's almost like a twisted children's fairy tale storybook sort of vibe with these characters as well. Really cool. Of course, animals, I'm probably going to give it a serious consideration if they are the main feature. But I can't have room for all the animal decks, so there's that as well. And let's look at the next one. How about the Chicoli Tarot? This one's a newer one into my Lo Scarabeo collection, and I'm really glad that I brought it in. I kind of fought it and resisted it for the longest time. And I don't know, partly because the little girl aspect just felt slightly creepy. I mean, not in a perv way, but just, I don't know, it wasn't clicking for me. And I'm like, yes, I always liked it, but it never was one where I was like, I must get it. But then I got back into doll collecting and I kind of saw these more as doll figures. And I thought, oh my gosh, yeah. And my husband always tried to get me to get this deck because he figured I would really like it. And he was always surprised I never bought it in. So finally, I was like, you know what? There was a sale on a site and I was like, let me just grab this. And this one is a very strong reader for me. I have some very specific pairings I love to read with it as. It's one that does not tread lightly. It is definitely a heavy hitter. It definitely tells me the harder stuff. And it's something that's there with answers that maybe aren't the easiest to digest. But that's not to say that, I'm scared or I don't like to use it. It makes me like none of that. It's just one of those you go into knowing like, okay, like I am going to get something serious, something meaningful, probably impactful. And that's just what it is. Like, we all have our easy, lighthearted readers. We know it's going to be, a bit more light and bright and just like feel good. This one's like truth. And I adore it. I always toyed around with the mini, but I don't think I'm going to mess with that. I just really like this full size one. I'm actually after, on my wish list, the one Lo Scarabeo deck I have on a wish list right now is the Chick Holy Oracle. So eventually I'll pick that up and expand this collection. But for now, super love this tarot, as I think a lot of you do. It also, I think, is one of those, it's a love it or you hate it. I don't know if there's an in-between to this. And we have the John Bauer. Once again, another deck. I have a very specific use and purpose and pairings with it. This is definitely kind of like a folklore deck for me. This is a deck that I would engage with if I was after connecting with myths. It has that vibe for me. And what I was saying before about the love it or hate it sort of thing with some of this artwork, I think that's what makes this publisher so great, is because they push strong artwork. It's not one that's just a feel-good mass appeal. It's specific artwork. There's themes that not everyone's going to like. There's styles that not everyone's going to like. And I think that says something huge about this publisher in particular. While yes, businesses are businesses, they're there to make a profit, they're there to earn money, they're there to sell product. Fine. But I love Lo Scarabeo for the strong art presence and almost seeming like it's art first for them. Yes, these are products. Yes, they're selling them, but they're putting out unique visuals on the market. Now, this one, I don't like engage with the visuals on a like purposeful, original, specific storybook, telling meaning. I apply it to how it works for me and my practice. And that's just how I approach most decks. I figure out where it fits in for me, how it works for me, regardless of its original intent. And that's just what happens when these tools, these products, these decks land in our hands. They have to work for us. It separates from it being art hanging on a wall to now being a tool. So we need to make that make sense for ourselves. And this one, I just really adore when I am engaging and connecting with my Finnish myth and lore studies. It slides right in perfectly to that. And pairing it with some other decks that I also have in that vein and use in that vein, they just speak so well together. I am really surprised why I had some reversals in there. I must have got crazy putting it away one day. And the last of the Tuck Box decks, we have the Botticelli. And this one is one that has a special place for me because I bought it together when my husband and I were out of town. We were on a goat emergency. Luckily, he was fine, but he was hospitalized overnight. So while we were waiting for pickup in the morning for him, of course, I had to find any stores that sold tarot decks. And of course, we found one. And this is what we picked out together. My husband is also an artist. He's a sculptor. And so picking out a art history deck together was really cool, and definitely one that like makes sense why we would choose that. I love the ornate over the top gold foil in the backgrounds. This one is a heavy fall winter deck, definitely more fall going into winter than winter itself, but it just has that rich luxe deep colors. Then with this gold and the filigree, it slides in so perfectly to that time of the year, especially where I live. I have put this in a video or two before, I think on a deck edit or some pairing videos. It's just a really classic and beautiful deck. And it really goes with a lot of other decks just because of its color palette, because of this black border with that gold. It fits in really well to that sort of antique, classical, kind of romantical art history vibe. And it's just really pretty. Next up in the collection is the Lo Putin deck, and I've raved about this a bunch on the channel before, so I won't go too hard or too long on it, but it is a rather beautiful oracle. Lo Scarabeo, though, can we put keywords on the oracle? I mean, this one works to not really need it because they are so narrative driven in the artwork. So you can easily come up with a story and connections because it is just so visually heavy with story. But like, come on. Like, that is my one gripe about their oracles, though. And also, I'm like trying to be careful to not show anything I shouldn't be showing. If you watched my last video, we looked at those 3 cards. I was like, oh, why do those look so familiar? This deck for me works great as altar cards, especially when I do my monthly animal gnosis. It has this great like world filler as those extra side cards that I use. It also reads beautifully in a large spread. And once again, if you're cool with tapping into that intuitive reading, that storytelling reading aspect, decks like these go really far and you can continue to find more and more details and connections the longer and more you use it. This deck is just gorgeous. The colors, the vibe, the imagery, the animals. It's dreamlike, it's fantasy-like, it's otherworldly. It checks a lot of boxes. I adore it. I bought it as soon as this was available, and it's been a stronghold in my collection ever since. There are some cards that aren't ideal to show on YouTube, though. So I'm like, let me try to slide past those. Isn't that gorgeous? Like, think of all of the areas you can tap into and just read from this visual alone. And then imagine it in a spread with tarot cards around it. Ugh, it's just amazing. Another deck that I love, and I am a bit of a fangirl of this illustrator, and this is the Oracle of the Chimeras. Love this one. Once again, though, this one would totally benefit from keywords. Keywords, people. Keywords, please. But you get a sense at how unique the artwork that this publisher produces and puts out on the market. And this is the reason why I have the most of their decks in my collection out of any other publisher. I adore what they put out. In terms of the decks, obviously, with the art that speaks to me, like I have quite a few, so they're definitely doing something that checks the boxes for me. And this one is just fun. I don't use it as much. Once again, these strong animal-only, animal-heavy focused decks come and go a little less into my readings than something that's a bit more general or generic in its visuals. But I like that you can get a story, you can get some context from the background designs here, and also the character designs. Really strong character designs. I love this illustrator. I have most of their decks. I think maybe only one I might not have, maybe 2. But the ones that I'm like liking, I get and I love. And we're going to see another one. So the same thing with the Tarot of the Animal Lords. Some are a little corny than others, but what do you expect when you're humanizing animals? They're going to look a little goofy sometimes. Some animals just don't translate that well with human body parts or features. But it has this soft pastel palette too, color palette, and I feel like a lot of decks don't tap into this lighter tones, and this artist definitely does in the artwork. And that's something that I find rather unique as well, and what I am drawn to. How cute. This is so cute, though. Like, even the toenails, I'm like, I love the toenails. But it still reads really cute and really realistic. And I don't know, I love this one. Once again, though, can you see what I mean, though? The inclusion of keywords on this one in particular, like maybe the Lo Putin is easier to read without keywords, but this one would just really benefit from it, I think. Yes, the character design is very strong. You get a lot from just a figure and a background design, border design. And I think, if I remember correctly, I think the guidebook does have keywords, or is it just the animal? Okay, it's just the animal. The other one does have keywords in the book, though. Okay, if you were just going to put animals for keywords on this, then no, just skip it. But if we're going to have, actionable keywords, descriptive keywords on here, I would say yes. Another reason why I love Lo Scarabeo is because they have this art series of decks. I think it's titled the Horizon series, and it's experimental artwork, experimental artists making tarot decks. Love that idea. They're limited edition, and I have two of them. Let's look at them. This Vesper Tarot here feels like gothic metal, a bit of whimsicalness to it, has a bit of that cute factor. This is a pip deck. It has these characters, and I think they are doing adorable and fun, wacky things sometimes. It has a really great injection of nature elements, like the fantasy elements. Like, there's definitely world building, even though it is a pip deck. I enjoy them. I know some people kind of get hung up on pips, or like it, don't like it. But I think this one is really cute and really well done and fits in this world that is being built through these cards. I also really like this card size. It's a bit narrower and shorter than a traditional tarot card. So if you're someone who likes a pocket size, while it's definitely bigger than that, it has that hand feel where it just sits a little easier in smaller hands. But this one is just too adorable. I absolutely love it. It does almost feel like a little bit Japanese influenced as well, a little bit manga influenced with some of this character design. I love these duos of these characters throughout the cards. You can just tell like they are up to no good in like a good way. It's a really great style to put out in a deck. So if you have this one, definitely let me know. I don't really see it around that much. I know it definitely has a specific feel and vibe. So once again, not one that I'm pulling and reading with a ton constantly, but one that I have to have in my collection for the times that I do. And that is not to knock it at all. I just, you know how it is, like when you have a decent size tarot collection, you can only use so many decks at so many times throughout the months, the years, the days, the weeks, all of that. And sometimes some just kind of like fall through the cracks a little bit and don't get their proper time to shine. This one definitely deserves it. And I think I just need to pull it out this fall. Like, this feels like such a good, it's not that I don't do Halloween. I feel like you're either a Halloween season person or you're not. And while I enjoy the holiday, the season, it's like really fun and everything, I just never got like hooked on it and like everything, the visuals and like everything that goes along with it. But I think this definitely like fits that for me. So I'm definitely gonna have to pull that out then. The second deck I have in that Artist Horizon series is the Disorder Tarot of Innocence, one that I might need to skip through a few cards because it shows some body parts. This one also a black and white deck, and a bit more simplified than the one we just looked at beforehand. We'll just do flipped over cards. Why, YouTube? Why? I should have prepped these a little bit before and like pulled out any ones that wouldn't be totally cool. But it has a very sketchy, hand done, feel imperfect drawing style to it that I really love. Like I said, I like the strong use of contrast through the black and white and these bold colored fills. So we're getting the whites popping from the black popping from the white, a really strong use of composition and playing with those color blocking areas and line work. This one fits a really fun vibe for me because I like to put it in when I use like really bold, vibrant, highly saturated decks. It brings this really cool, calm, and collected aspect to those super strong visual decks. And while this has a very strong visual voice to it because it's a bit more visually simplified and minimalistic, it's a perfect pairing partner. It's a perfect deck to use in a big patchwork style spread and reading. It goes really far, I think. And it follows the Rider-Waite-Smith with a few deviations in there. So it can be a simple reader as well in terms of like using this with other decks and not having this have such a strong theme or voice that it pulls or feels confusing. Because I feel with some decks that have a really strong visual style, they can scream and overtalk like other decks or cards in the spread or that you're pairing with. And this one is just quiet. It's offering a lot. The visuals are so engaging and I gravitate towards them, but it's not beating you over the head. There's something about it that just really speaks to me. Also, one I don't see floating around that much out there, but I think it's super cool. It's one that just does a lot with doing a little. You know, I think that's a common theme that I look for in decks, especially when it comes to artwork of decks. Where are its strengths? Where are its weaknesses? Like, where can I place it for me in my practice, in the way I pair, in the way I read, all of those things. So, like, all of that plays a factor into why a deck works for me, why I like a deck, how it fits in with all of my other decks, like all of those things. You know, we all have our reasons, right? This deck I have shown a bunch on my channel. It is an absolute stunner in my collection. I love it so much. This deck does visual storytelling, does artwork like a champ. I love so many things about it. The colors, first of all, oh my gosh, the colors in this deck are just stunning. The clear mastery of illustration is evident. The obvious understanding of art fundamentals, design, and illustration is evident. I love how the suits are their own worlds. Each suit represents a different pantheon. And I've talked about my thoughts and opinions and things in previous videos. Even for very, very, very few things that I don't prefer, which is really only kind of one thing, this deck does everything else like so perfect for me. The details in the illustrations are incredible. Every card is a mini world. The cards link together if you really look for Easter eggs and for those connection points. The suits read like a story. I mean, this is like based on a story, right? But the cards really express that, and they're not expressing that in a repetitive way. It's like one page from a book. The next card is the next page in the book. You really get this sense of this fantastical world in this deck. It is such a strong reader for me. You know, those decks where you just click with, you just connect with, you want to spend time with, you always want to constantly grab for it. Like, I seriously stopped myself from using this deck because I was just constantly using it so much. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to give other decks my time. This one is just screaming for me to use it because I'm just so drawn to everything about it. Oh, it pairs so well for me. I love using it in patchwork spreads. This is like my Fievel Goes West card. It's just gorgeous. Look how vibrant these colors are. My lighting probably isn't doing them justice right now, but my goodness. If this deck even somewhat interests you, you should definitely give it a shot. Another deck with really strong use of color is the Wild Eden. Well, I keep trying to like open and like, let me just look through a couple, and we're landing into like body parts instantly. So if you know, you know, with this deck, the compositions are incredibly dynamic. The sense of like scale and like zoomed inness, if we want to call that a word, the way things are tightly cropped, that's a bit more professional sounding, on the cards for the artwork of the composition make this just feel like there's so much movement and motion through the illustrations, the tropical environments, the rich color palettes, the strong sense of nature and animal with human. This has like my favorite judgment card in it. This deck is just like a really cool one, but not friendly for the camera. How about the Yokai Tarot? Also, probably one of my favorite box designs. Let me put them the right way here. This is super clever. This is good design. This is professional, thoughtful, well executed graphic design, package design. Bravo. Well done. I love this box. This is just so good. I'm like, how many times can I open and close this? Okay, so this is by the same artist as, let me move this out of the way, as the Chimera Oracle, Oracle of the Chimeras, excuse me. And this is one that you really get to see that use of the soft color palette that this artist does. I have been obsessed with Japan since 6th grade. I've said this in a few videos I've gone over. I've traveled to Japan twice. I used to study Japanese in high school and college. And so the folklore course, I am interested in just an enjoyment factor. And this artwork is so beautiful. Once again, just like the Under the Oak Tarot, beautiful world building in this deck, excellent character design. There's so much detail. The execution of the illustrations is masterful. You can tell that this person is a professional. It's just gorgeous. I love this underused color palette, this washed out, muted color palette. This is definitely one of my favorite decks as well. This is my favorite star card. When do you see a taper in artwork in a deck? I don't know, maybe like never. Let me know if there is, do tell me. I'm sure there are, but I just, want to be dramatic. It's just gorgeous. It's stunning. I also have another folklore deck by this artist, but it's not a mass market deck. But what I find is that I can pull more cards with this deck because we are focused on one culture, one region of the folklore, versus the other folklore deck that I have. Because it's folklore from around the world, there's so many different figures and voices talking at me when I pull out multiple cards in a spread using that other deck that it feels overwhelming, but this one just feels more as a cohesive story when I'm laying out multiple cards. They feel like they flow together. They feel like They're of the same world, but obviously clearly different stories. It's a very well executed, well designed, well developed deck. The guidebook is great for it being, a small guidebook. You get the punch that you need, you get the information that you need for it. Another one that I highly recommend if you're semi interested in it, it's a total stunner. Now, they also have what is that one? The Japanese Nouveau or the Art Nouveau Japanese. You know that one? That one I'm probably not going to get because I have this one already. I'm more interested in the folklore, like creatures, myths, and all of that aspect of things. So I definitely connect with this artwork more than just traditional historical artwork, Japanese artwork. I still think it's gorgeous. Like, trust me, I was definitely tempted because I love the artist so much, but I keep the decks that I use. While I have a small, larger collection, it is important to me that every deck is one that I'm going to pull and use. Like, there's none that are just hanging around over my head being like, well, no, I never will use that one. No, I don't. I don't keep those types around. And the last Lo Scarabeo deck in my collection is the Symbolic Soul Tarot. This one is a semi-recent one to me. I really wanted this one desperately when it first released, and then it kind of just like fell by the wayside for me. But I ended up circling back around and getting it. Now, this one is really cool. Definitely a very strong Rider-Waite-Smith clone, but it has this very interesting, almost sci-fi, alchemy, medieval, UFO-y. Like, it's definitely has some interesting themes. There's a good deal of animals in here, but this gold accent with the black and white illustrations is super, super impactful, especially the way that they use it so purposefully. It balances out the artwork and the composition so well. Skim right over that. And it's once again an excellent example of a well designed and illustrated deck. There's nothing that obviously jumps out and goes, oh, this feels a little unfitting for the rest of it. You know how sometimes there's a handful of cards that just don't seem like they fit? No, these decks in my little slice of the Lo Scarabeo collection here definitely do artwork well. They do design well. Now, there are some decks that I have had from this publisher that I have passed on and found new homes for. And I would say only one of those is because of the artwork. Otherwise, they were just not the right time, not the right fit for me. But this one here does an excellent job. Now, it does have a high competition sort of space, being black and white. As you can see, we've already looked at a few black and white decks from this little group. So when I'm going for black and white, wow, why can't I fit that on there? When I'm going for a black and white deck, I do have a lot of choices, but this with the gold accent and its quirky theme, that really different visual theme, really sits in a spot of its own, and which is why I definitely have it and enjoy it. So quickly, we can just mention briefly here the Lo Scarabeo decks that I used to have that I have now passed on. The first one, because of the art, was the Wicked Moon Tarot, and I have done a video that I will link below, and I just talk about design feedback and design critiques, and I kind of go through the way that I look at decks as a visual story. And so that one just felt too repetitive in the artwork, especially in the suits. It felt like the same snippet from a movie scene over and over 10 times. And the majors artwork felt totally different than the minors artwork. It felt almost like two different styles. I liked the majors. It had a very folksy feel to it. So that one got the boot, but that's just how these things go. And then another one I used to have is the after tarot. Now, I love the concept of the before tarot and the after tarot. It's one I still think about getting again, and I think I would get it in the mini. I think it comes in a smaller version now. But I had it much earlier on in my career, in my tarot journey. So I didn't really have like a good grasp on like my style and the way I'm like curating my collection and what works for me, because you know how there's just like a learning curve with knowing what decks are going to mostly like work out or not. So that one I think is really cool. I was too early on to like figure it out and like have a good use and a good like reason for it. Definitely one I would still consider though. And then same kind of vein is the astrological oracle. Same sort of thing. I was way early on in my deck collecting and my tarot journey, and I kind of got bit by the bug and like got excited, which I mean, like I love being a forever student, so I'm sure some of you can relate to this as well, where you're like, "Oh, I can learn something new from this deck." Well, I eventually realized over time that I only can like intake so much information and learn so many different things. And so I have let go pretty much all the decks that aren't like working for me, sticking around, that are that sort of like I can learn something from it. So the astrological oracle, I just thought was really cool as well. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm like into astrology. You know, where you're like, yeah, I think I would like that flavor of things. Do I have the time to study it? Like, absolutely not. Yeah, once I kind of got past that initial like beginner's hump and kind of realized like how decks were working for me and not, that one did get the boot as well, but that's just a learning curve of things. You know, you do just have to like buy decks, try them, keep them for a while, like whatever. Like there's a process to it and it's different for everybody, but we all kind of like get there eventually, right? All right, and that was my 13 decks by Lo Scarabeo. Definitely let me know what you think. What decks do you have by them? And I would love to know because I'm definitely drawn to them the most when it comes to mass market publications. I think my runner up would probably be US Games, which I think they also put out unique enough artwork. But I would say another publisher that I would put on the same level as Lo Scarabeo would be Fournier. I love their decks. I only have two of them, but I think they're all great. I think they all feel like unique and cool. So, and the small size also is fabulous. But they also feel very art forward in what they produce. But I love these decks dearly. I would definitely not let these go. I continue to be excited by what this publisher produces. I should look up what's coming up because I wonder if there's anything I can salivate over. I'm always looking for some new deck to look forward to in the coming months. So let me know what you thought. Let me know if you are a fangirl of any mass market publisher or any publisher in general, really. But I thought it'd be fun to talk about mass market since we all love an affordable deck option when we can. So until next time, everyone, I will talk to you later. Bye.